Today I'm going to demonstrate a second grade word problem using the join linear model method with strip diagrams. The word problem says Jerry had some gumballs. Cindy gave Jerry 14 gumballs and now Jerry has 23 gumballs. How many did Jerry start with? So we first need to notice that a change is occurring in the problem. So we know it has to either be between a join or a separate problem. Since we're extending the length of the start amount, it has to be a join problem, so that's why we're using this method. So we don't know what he started with, but we do know the change is 14 and he ended up with 23 gumballs. So looking at our strips, we know that this is going to be the result or the total amount of gumballs. So I'm going to write result and write 23 underneath. We don't know what he started with, which is represented by the smaller blue strip, so I'm going to put an X. So that's going to be our variable. That's the start amount. And the pink strip is going to represent the change, so it's the number of gumballs that Cindy gave Jerry, which is 14. And I'm going to label that change. I want to point out that I have written the numbers above or below the strips because it's a common misconception that writing the numbers inside the strips, children will confuse that with area. So you want to make sure to write it above or below the strips. So what we have so far is we don't know the change, we don't know the start, we do know the change, and we know the result. So if I was going to write it out as an equation, it would look something like this. We would have the start, which is x, our variable, plus the change, which is 14, and that equals the result, which is 23. I'm going to then subtract 14 from both sides. I'm going to cancel those out, and we notice that you can't subtract 4 ones from 3 ones, so I'm going to regroup. That leaves us with 110 and 13 ones. So 13 ones minus 4 ones equals 9 ones, and 110 minus 110 is 0. So that gives us to equal x equals 9, which is our start. If you want to go back and check this, you could plug it back into the equation that we started with. So we have the start, which is 9, plus the change, which is 14, equals 23. And adding that together, we can see that that is correct. The next word problem is another second grade word problem, but this time I'm using the compare set model method with the set model diagram. The word problem says Carly has 24 marbles and Lindsay has 17 marbles. How many more marbles does Carly have than Lindsay? So we know that we can notice that there's not a change occurring in this problem. So it has to be between the compare or part-whole problems. Since we're trying to find the difference between the two amounts, we know it has to be a compare problem. So we know that the larger amount is 24. So I'm going to write 24 under larger set on this model. We know that the smaller set is 17, so I'm going to write 17, but we don't know the difference between the two. So writing this as an equation, we do the larger set equals the smaller set plus the different set. So I would write 24 equals 17 plus, and I'm going to use x as a variable to represent the difference. Okay, I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides. We're going to cross those out. We can notice that you can't subtract 7 ones from 4. So I'm going to regroup, leaving us with 110 and 14 ones. We know that 14 ones minus 7 ones equals 7, and 110 minus 110 is 0, so we don't need to write that. Leaving us with x equals 7. Now, this is now defining the difference. If we wanted to plug it back in and check our work, we could write 24 equals 17 plus 7. And when we add that up, we can see that that is correct. That 17 plus 7 is 24. And if you wanted to plug it back in to this model, you could write 7 and see that 17 plus 7 equals 24. So the scale is balanced. Once students can recognize and solve problems with unknown quantities, they are developing their academic reasoning. And that is my last problem for today.